about moving into our new house. You know, it was going to be our family house where we'd raise the kids and see them grow into teenagers and all of that. The only thing we didn't know was that the people living on one side of us were Sicilian.
When I was a young girl, I lived in a lovely street in Sydney. Had the big green trees and the white picket fences and all of that. Everyone in the street got on really well, except for one kind of weird old man that lived across the road from my grandma, and he was just a little bit creepy.
About 20 years ago, we were living next door to a family that apparently liked animals, and they always had a lot of pets, but I think the main reason why they had a lot of pets was that their pets had very short lives. At this particular time, they had a little kitten, a little boy kitten, and they hadn't bothered to have the kitten desexed. So as a result, being a little boy kitten, he thought it was the right thing to do to come into our house, into our kitchen, and piss all over our lounge.
I mean, I did try. I have to say I made an effort. Just little neighbourly things like every Sunday I'd mow the nature strip in front of our house. They had a nature strip as well. I thought, well, it's a bit mean if I don't mow theirs, so I'd mow theirs. And of course, you know, we found out later that that was like us saying, well, you guys can't manage your nature strip.
As I was going out with the vet at the time and he was going to be coming down the following weekend, I said, bring down the gear for castrating him and we'll do it on Friday night.
After a few months, we decided it was time to throw a housewarming party. So I went up to Mama and I said, look, do you mind, we'd really like the place to look nice if you could take your mops and not hang them over our fence. And I sort of got the feeling she didn't like the idea of us having a party.
It became known through the gossip circles that he had a crush on my grandma. She divorced my grandfather like 40 years ago and she's never looked back. She's never been into guys, still hates men to this day, hates all men, hated men. She thinks that men are losers. She's got 3 sons and she doesn't really like any of them. Has hated men for the past 40 years of her life. But she loves her cats and they're all female cats. She had probably 3 or 4 cats at any one time and she got on well with them. And they were like her family, probably more so than we were.
You know, we decorated the backyard, put up a marquee table with tablecloths and glasses and all of that. White tablecloths. Yeah, it was fancy. We had, you know, our best friends and some clients. Everyone we knew just about was at this party. And then suddenly, sort of halfway through, we smelt this strange, acrid-y sort of smoke.
Brought the cat anaesthetic with him and a scalpel blade, and he also brought down this sample of special chemical which was designed to sterilise instruments. However, he forgot about that, and when we had the cat anaesthetised for the surgery, he liberally saturated the cat's scrotum with this noxious looking blue liquid. We then performed the surgery. The cat woke up from the anaesthetic, staggered round for a while, and I guess his scrotum must have been stinging because he proceeded to lick it.
Whoops.
This of all days was the day they decided to burn off their giant pile, which they'd been accumulating, I'm sure, for 20 years, of polystyrene tomato boxes. So suddenly our backyard party was filled with carcinogenic black smoke and our guests couldn't actually breathe.
One day, my grandmother came over to our house. She was really upset because one of her cats had turned up dead, and it was quite a young female cat. It hadn't been hit by a car or anything, it just had blood and like froth in its mouth. As a young child, I didn't really understand that it had been poisoned. It's funny how cats always turn up under the house. I don't know why, they just always go there to die. My two cats, which I'd had since I was a little baby, they turned up dead. There was Lily and Pilly, and I just remember one day asking where they were, and Mum and Dad said they'd come and crawled under the house to die. It actually turned out that almost every cat in the street got poisoned, which formed a number of around 20 and probably about 5 or 6 dogs. We heard through the same gossip circles that the old man had been around boasting to the other men that because my grandma had ignored him, he had decided to poison her cats, and not stop at that, but poison every cat in the street.
Ralph stepped out the front yard one morning and the two sons decided to attack you with the baseball bat. And we decided at that point we had to take things into our own hands and get the local chamber magistrate involved, and he ruled against them. I mean, you see these things in movies like The Godfather, but you don't think they happen in real life.
A few days later, we're driving home and there's ambulances and police cars and a rather large semi-trailer just around the corner from our house, and they're all parked there and the sirens are going, and as a kid I was excited. I wanted to see if there's any blood or bodies. But I found out a few days later that the old man, the creepy old cat-killing man, had been hit by a huge semi-trailer and was paralysed permanently.
The next day, the cat's walking around with his tongue hanging out of his mouth, drooling saliva, not able to eat. He'd also lost all the hair from around his scrotum and under his tail. It's all red and angry and looking terrible. And thank God the cat survived. But I did have to go into the neighbour's house and make a confession and a major apology. And it'd be fair to say that the relations between the two neighbouring families were never quite the same again. It did cause some degree of permanent damage.
Every now and then when we'd be in the backyard, the son would just lean over the fence and go, "If you don't like it, why don't you move?" We took his advice and we did move to North Queensland. Eventually, and we haven't really looked back.
You know, you can't pick your neighbours, but if you could, you hope that you wouldn't get some cat murdering old man maniac.
Whenever you're going to castrate your neighbour's cat, make sure you use the right disinfectant.